Hello, how y'all doing? Hello, how y'all doing?
It was because I came in here to the
How are you? Okay, get ready. Oh, nice to meet you. I think it's cold. Is my cousin. Okay.
bring your potato.
I'm tired. Just trying to stay out.
Thanks, man. Another receipt.
When is that one? August 22nd. August 22nd. That's the annual dinner for Farm Bureau thing. I believe I saw there was another one you guys had to. I think it's the 10th. That's what I'm supposed to be early or something. Never very popular.
There's worse things you can get away
How you doing, man? How's you doing, man? It's good?
Yes, they
Yes, ma'am. First year test Thursday.
I don't remember, but I would, in fact, I would say, if there's nothing. Is that the time? Oh, I haven't reviewed it yet.
Mic check, mic check.
Yeah, she is.
2024 regular meeting of the Southampton County School Board. We have 8 of our 9 members present, so we do have a quorum. You should have received, board members, updated agenda for the evening. So you should have received from this artist today an agenda that has 3 items added. One is a date for a special meeting, another is the appointment of facilities committee, and then 2 closed session items. Is there a board member who would like to add an item to the agenda tonight? So if there is not a board member who would like to add an item, then the agenda stands approved as updated. You have in your board documents the minutes from our regular and organizational meeting on July 8th and our special meeting on July 15th. Are there any corrections to those minutes? So if there are no corrections, then the minutes are approved as distributed. So we are now down to recognitions. We don't have any. And that brings us to the public comment period. Although Virginia law does not require us to hold a public comment period, the Southampton County School Board chooses to do so because we believe it's important for us to hear from our community members. We value their input. We recognize that it's important. The public comment period is a time for board members to listen to the views and concerns of individuals regarding Southampton County Public Schools. Therefore, please do not expect board members to respond to comments or to answer questions during the public comment period. We do ask that you respectfully follow a few rules. One is that if you wish to speak, you should have signed up in the lobby prior to the start of the meeting. Each speaker has 3 minutes. The time limit has been created so that as many members of the public as possible who wish to speak may do so, while still allowing sufficient time for the board to conduct other necessary business. We do have a timer so that speakers can keep up with the time that they have allotted. Speakers cannot transfer the opportunity to speak to others. Speakers should address their comments to the board, not to the superintendent or other audience members. And we also ask the audience members refrain from comments and demonstrations such as booing, hissing, and clapping. So I will call up the speakers in the order in which they signed up. So the item is an update from Crabtree Robot Architects on the Health Resource Building in the Parent Center.
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me better tonight. I'm going to get really close to the mic, so let me know if you can't hear. Good evening. Thank you all for letting us speak this evening on the two capital projects. I'll give you an update of the progress, and also there's some decisions that do need to be made in order for us to be able to finalize. So let's see if we can. So the Community Parent Resource Center, we are essentially ready to go out to bid with this project. We believe that the drawings are in good shape and we are very close to the budget. So this is the site plan that we presented in the past. Again, the building is adjacent to your school board office building. This is the current design. So at the last meeting that Mr. Melby was so gracious to fill in for me because I was caught in a hurricane. A couple things that we did from the last meeting was that we reduced the toilet count to 1. We also reduced the size of the kitchenette from 2 to 1. We had essentially 2 ceilings because as we're replacing the gypsum as we're replacing the roof structure because it is not repairable. That we were going to have a gypsum wall board and then acoustical ceiling. We've actually modified that design to be able to carry the insulation, but allow us to have an acoustical ceiling, which would be better for acoustics. It will save money and allow us to run the ductwork essentially below the joist, which is our preferred path. So some additional things that we are recommending is our original plan was to do a vinyl clad wood window, which would look wood on the inside and on the outside would have a vinyl coating onto it. We're recommending to go with all vinyl because that's a pretty significant cost savings. And then really one of the biggest ones for tonight is our thought process in changing of the floor. So the existing building actually has floor joists in it. So it has wood joists to go from grade, it goes up a couple of steps to be able to get there in the current building. What happened is as the roof failed and the floor failed, there was a lot of points where the floor, and I've shown you pictures in the past, where the floor actually dropped down and was in severe disrepair. So as we looked at that and to remove those joists and put new joists in, we'd also have to deal with things like the humidity, and it essentially becomes a crawl space, and all in all, it was going in a poor direction. So what we are recommending and what we have in our design documents is actually to remove the current floor and to put a new concrete floor at grade in its stay. So these are the elevations, proposed elevations of the building. Again, from the last meeting, we went from a metal roof to a 50-year shingle roof, which is what we're showing in there. This will be replacing all of the exterior windows. The entrance for the parents, for the public, is going to be at grade. The rear entrance, which is your receiving, will have a couple steps up, but that is not. But you will have one accessible path, both for ingress and egress. This is the one that I want to show you. So we're showing a section through the building, and what this has is we're dropping the floor all the way down to grade. So we'll have a compact stone and a concrete floor. So what we do is that we believe that's going to save money. It's also going to make it better for accessibility to the building. And probably the other big factor is it will still allow you to have your windows. The windows will be up a little bit higher, but it will not affect the ability to see out of the windows unless you're maybe on my height. But again, we think that this is going to be more positive than negative from a cost standpoint, from a time standpoint, and from a functionality standpoint. So this is just a quick rendering of what the exterior would look like. I drove by it again today, and I can't wait to see this historical building given new life. So you can see the new roof, the windows, the new furniture to it. That we really believe this is going to be a positive impact on the school division. So cost, we have done everything that we possibly can to reduce our costs. Probably the biggest challenge that we have with any project is contractors bidding on the project. So we can put our cost estimates and say this is how much a sheet drywall costs, and this is how much it costs to paint. But it's all going to come down to the amount of contractors bidding the project. Unfortunately, that is a reality on every project. So where we believe at right now, the project budget is $1 million. We believe we're just shy about $100,000 over our budget, but we believe we're within a range to be able, that we would recommend moving forward. And if the project does come in a little tiny bit as we're projecting over the budget, we can actually work with a contractor to come up with viable options, whether it's changing doing different lights, or they'll have the contractor will actually have additional items that they can come up with in the process. But we believe that we are at a point now where the drawings are complete, and I don't know what else we can do to reduce the costs. But we are within a margin of error to be able to move forward within your budget and your time. So, is there before we move on to the next program, any questions on this? Any concerns about us being able to put this out for the contractor to bid on it?
Board members, any questions?
Okay. So next, the Student Health and Education Building. So again, this is the new freestanding building adjacent to your high school. So the second plan here is going to be, we're putting this essentially between the baseball stadium or your baseball field and your tennis courts. We moved it closer. It's going to be very much a positive from the standpoint of getting water to it and sanitary, because the lines essentially run almost directly adjacent to it, and also getting power to the building. So we believe those are all things that are going to help save on costs. This is the current design of the building, and what you can see here is that the concessions, the laundry space, the student activity rooms, and the toilet rooms are all adjacent to the high school. So as you're looking at this, these students can leave the high school and go directly across the drive, and that would be the first thing. So also as the folks are there for tennis and there for football and there for baseball and softball, the paved path is where they would access all of those services. For the locker rooms, the tea rooms, the student service, all of that is going to be directly adjacent to the space. So we feel that it's going to be the best layout. We also have as of right now, the multi-purpose instructional space, which is the size of a basketball court. We have, since the last meeting, shrunk that down a bit. So there's not as much space between the sidelines and the walls in order to try to do what we can to get us closer to the budget. We're also going to be showing the weight room, which is a small chunk in the bottom, showing that as a bid alternate. Okay, so that will be not part of the base bid, that will be a bid alternate to the project. Part of it is if we may be blessed and find out the numbers come in really well, or somebody that wants to be just generous gives us the money to be able to do the rest of the project. We want to make sure it's part of the package. So the other thing that we talked about the last board meeting was reducing some of the scope. So we're going to create the building, put the walls in there. We'll have electricity. We'll have the plumbing rough-ins. But at this point, we would not be fitting out as part of this project. Fitting out the concessions or the laundry room. We would be having the student educational spaces, and the toilet rooms would be fit out. But the other ones would be essentially, we'd have rough-ins, so that as money is available, you can do those spaces, but you have the building to be able to start with. So here's just some rendered images of what the elevations will look like. That basketball space is going to have the higher volume, with the clear story windows, and then both the weight room and the concessions and the other spaces would be at a lower volume. What we're looking to do essentially is to have the larger volume as a pre-junior middle building, and then stick build the two sides. We think is going to be the best path as far as time and economics. Jump too fast. So this is what we spoke about at the last meeting, and having the roof to match the color of your high school. So one of the things we're going to talk about today, as far as a option for cost reduction, is the red is a premium color, whereas a gray or a white roof would be more of a standard color. There's a cost impact to that. So here's what the red roof would look like, and here's what a gray or another in their standard palette of colors for the metal panel. So costs. Again, we've really made every effort to get our costs on this option down to budget. And where we are right now with the additional things we're going to talk about today is we're about $300,000 greater than what the budget is. So the project budget is $750. in the past meeting, we were a little over $1 million, now we're about 772 less, if we have some additional reductions. So we've already talked about the weight room, as making that as an alternate. Not fitting out the instructional rooms or the laundry, that was already discussed. They're reducing the multi-purpose room in size, that was already discussed. The height of the structure, dropping it down a little bit. Also going to heat and ventilation only in the toilet rooms, no air conditioning. Now, so some additional things I want to talk about today would be to go with the stock metal panels. So it would not be a metal, it would not be a red metal roof. It would be either a gray or a lighter color. The deleting of the windows in the clear story. So those in the high volume space, those big windows running across the top. Deleting those. And then another thing that we could do, which we just did in the project, would be deleting the ceilings in the space and just having the structure itself be the ceiling and painting it. So with those additional items, I said we are still about $300,000 greater than what our budget is. So Josh, what can we do? We simply don't have. We've cut so much out of this. We give you a building, but there's a lot that is not being done. So one thing that we're going to ask that you also entertain to get us back on the budget is to look at option A again, and going with a simple gable roof, a little bit smaller of a design. That numbers aren't correct, but we believe that this option, as we had previously designed it, would be back on within our budget. So we're not here to tell you what to do. What we're saying is that we believe that this option, even with all the things we've cut, is still about $300,000 greater than what the budget is. So we believe that if we were to relook at going with option A, that would allow us, with the smaller size of the building, a simpler design, would be within your budget that you had proposed. So looking for comments, questions on this. This has been submitted to, I believe this has been submitted to county planning for land development to at least start that process. We are very close on this. Whichever option is selected to be able to put this up a bit also. So thoughts, questions on this piece?
Board members, what's your opinion?
You said something about the AC, not gonna have AC.
We are not going to have AC in the building.
We go with option A, sir, AC option.
But we could definitely do it as a bid alternate to see how the numbers come in. So we're estimating somewhere between $37,000 to $50,000 of additional funds to put AC in the building.
So now, if we went with the second option, project 2, would the rooms be fitted out? Are we still talking about unfinished spaces with the?
So the plan with this, because it is a smaller building, is that we would be fitting out the rooms. I don't believe we can do the air conditioning in this. We can do heating and ventilation, but not AC. But we can do AC as an alternate. So that way, it's again, if the funds come in and it comes under the budget, then we can do that as an alternate.
What are your thoughts?
So I guess my thought with it is, we've given you an impossible project. We gave you a building and gave you a budget for something that's not possible within that budget. And looking at this, of course, we're trying to do 2 projects at the same time. And going into it, I think we have to look at, and I think somebody else may have mentioned the last meeting, we really have enough money to do 1 project well, or to do 2, and to do a lot of cutting to them and not have a good product by the time we're finished. So I guess my thought or my question to the other board members would be, at this point, do we still want to try and move forward with 2 projects, or do we want to look at, do we put all of our money into 1 project and do 1 project well? Because to me, to have the student health building, the beauty of the elevated height is it makes it more accessible for the community. We have, basketball league that it opens it up to be able to have our children, even not during school times, they're here for recreation things. It's things that, as good stewards of the you should be providing. So, my thought is, if we're gonna do the building, let's do it well and make sure that it's what's needed for the children and for the athletics and the extra things that we envisioned in the beginning. To go back to it and cut a lot out of it and make it, in essence, not really usable for what we were envisioning in the first place, then we're looking at, we've got something that we still got to work on for several years. I would just be a fan of, let's do one project well.
What do you think about having the Parent Resource Center housed in the student education building? Would that be a possibility, so that we do have one building and then just have have the Parent Resource Center housed in this one building?
I actually thought about that as well, and it may actually be a good option, because then if you have parents in doing things in the Parent Resource Building, you have in essence, a basketball court right beside it, that if your kids want to be over there, you've got activities can be going on, they can be shooting basketball while mom's in, the Parent Resource Center talking to somebody or doing something. I think it might be a nice way to use that space for both things, spend our dollars wisely and come back and do one project.
So I've got two questions. The first would be for Dr. Shannon, and that's, does that make sense in your head, like thinking operationally, moving Parent Resource Center from right beside central office to possibly over here at the high school? Could that be something that works? And the second one might be for you too, and that's, are our grant funds allowed to be combine two projects into a single project? Would that be allowable within the financial space?
So I do think it's a great idea for us to do one project well, as opposed to, two projects, and us having, building with no air. It's just unfathomable, during this day and time. It's hard. So I really do think that we should do one project well. I believe that moving the parent center into the health resource building does provide a grant opportunity for, really get to be more kid friendly, just as Ms. Vaughn stated, so while parents are there working with our federal programs department or parent liaison, then they will have some things that they can do with the children at that time. Now, as far as the funding is concerned, that would require some type of an amendment, and I really can't speak to whether or not the state would or would not approve an amendment of that type.
So if we put the Parent Resource Center in it, it may be easier to amend it, because we'd still be doing both projects, we're just combining them on the same site. If we were to go that option.
Yeah, I agree that perhaps we could make a case for housing the Parent Resource Center in the education building. And again, to me, it makes sense to put them together. It would be good use of the space. We could make it more child-friendly. It would give the Parent Resource Center a larger space. If they wanted to have, larger group activities, they would have space to do that. They would have space for small meetings. So we would still have the same, would be satisfying the same need that we proposed before. We're just housing everything in this one building that has air conditioning. And I think it makes everything more functional. I think somebody else, I thought I saw, Mr. Smith didn't.
I had a question about the funding process. I think it's been answered.
Any other thoughts?
Maybe a question, is it possible to do what we just said and still be on time? Because that's a lot of, it's trying to get a second project into your current design plans. Now you've already kind of scoped out what's going in there, but it's a totally different building. So what does that look like timelines for you and potentially be able to get this done on time?
That's a great question. The good news is we've already gone through the programming effort, so we know what spaces are desired. So is the question, we will absolutely start working on this tomorrow morning. And so the question for the to, I'm sorry, so the answer is, we were gonna make every effort to do it on time. So, is that the only question, Jeff, is can we do it on time? And can we do it? We can do amazing things with that. So, would we prefer to use the weight room? Because it's about, the current space is about 2,200 square feet. So would the preference be is to grow the weight room maybe a little bit? Because I could probably make it more efficient in this design than I could in your current building. And just not have a weight room in this facility, or would the desire would be to put additional, I'm a little bit nervous about adding more square footage if we don't have to. So does my question make sense? So is the preference to say, hey Josh, the weight room is not part of the project now, and we just want to use that space for the Parent Resource Center? Is that okay? Is that a fair request?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think we have adequate space for weight room equipment in the auxiliaries. Just like we take some of the equipment in there, that's what's in there right now, waiting for construction. You could probably move the weight room in here, and that's space for the weight room that we have allowed here for the Parent Resource Center.
Any other comments?
And of course, if we're combining the two projects and we have more funding, it may even be possible to say, with the weight room, you know, can we extend that any and then have space for, you know, maybe an office and the Parent Resource Center or something, you know, side by side if they're meeting people. But, yeah, and the other question is, I know for you, it's probably not real helpful that if we're meeting once a month and you need some answers back. So I know, Deborah, you had mentioned the committee. Should we establish a committee that can then meet with you more often so that the project can move along?
Well, what I had planned to do tonight was to establish an ad hoc committee called the Facilities Committee. And I did pass out a handout about that. We talked about this a little bit before, and one of the responsibilities of that committee would be to work with the superintendent and the superintendent's designee to make sure that building projects are completed in a timely fashion. So yes, we can take care of that now. So Ms. Bunn, if you would chair that committee, and then Mr. Rogers, would you work with Ms. Bunn?
Yep.
Okay. So then yes, we will have the facilities committee that would work with the superintendent, her designated architect, to move this along so that we will be on budget and on time. Yeah, and these two persons will be empowered to represent the board.
Wonderful, you're very lucky. It's always an honor to work on the facilities group.
So I would add, as far as the weight room is concerned or the additional space, could you do that as an alternate? Okay.
And that's what I said, it's a preference to either A, recreate another 2,200 square feet, maybe to the left, that little pocket there, or do we just use the weight room as a space? And so it's really up to you on the preference of, because we can always do it as an alternate. That's you know, that's easy to draw and easy to get pricing for. So is that preference?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking, because I think the way that everyone has been talking about it is we will put the parent center inside of it. So I'm assuming that the space that would have originally been the weight room would now be the parent center. So I think then that we're going to have to, you know, increase the square footage and leave it as an alternate. So whether we put it to the left or the right, you know, that's up to you, but it'll need to be increase the square footage for it.
So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. So item B is the proposed charter concerning the what we're calling a communication committee. And Mr. Rogers did draft the responsibilities, and I would call it responsibilities of the communication committee. So comments about that. And thank you, Mr. Rogers, for putting this together. And I do think that it gives us a starting point for tonight's discussion about communications. So board members, any thinking when you read this?
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Well, let me tell you my thinking. For me, I think some of the tasks here, like number 3, developing joint strategies and initiatives to enhance educational opportunities and outcomes. I don't think that should be a function of a liaison committee between the school board and the board of supervisors. Section in the Code of Virginia, 22.1-79 spells out the powers and duties of responsibilities. And I think that when we talk about identifying key issues and challenges, when we talk about joint strategies, I think for me, that's overstepping. I think for me, it means our board is trying to get somebody else to do what the board is empowered to do. The citizens of the county elect the school board, and the school board is responsible for doing those tasks. To me, that's the same as if the board of supervisors came to us and asked us about how to set the tax rate, or if the board of supervisors asked the school board to help them determine something about broadband communication. That's the responsibility of the board of supervisors. So we're not going to develop joint strategies to enhance broadband. I mean, they don't have that on their agenda. We're not going to develop joint strategies to enhance community development and increase the revenue stream. So I just think that what I think is a good idea to have effective communication between the board of supervisors and the school board. I would like to again call it a liaison committee, which is what we've called it in the past. And I'd like to take out 2, 3, and 4. Because this committee then, this liaison committee would be tasked with facilitating open dialogue between the school board and the board of supervisors to promote transparency and accountability, and to report recommendations and progress. But I just think that we should not expect the board of supervisors to help us develop strategies and initiatives. That's the job of the school board. We should not expect the board of supervisors to tell us how to steward school board funds. I just think it's overstepping for some of those items there.
So I hear where you're at, and I don't know that that was the intent of those things, and even to the samples that you gave us, I could see the board of supervisors asking how a build out of broadband would help our families, would help our school system, would help with educational needs. So I can actually see how that would be a likely place that dialogue would be helpful for them to understand if that was something that would be good for us to move forward with. So I do think that having strategies and understanding the initiatives that we're working off of is an important place for us to dialogue about. I can't see that there's a place where we don't have any proactive communication around strategic planning, facilities, capital improvement. Taking that off of the table means that some of the very projects that we've gotten stuck on in the past are going to continue to be a problem that we're not talking about.
Thoughts from other members, board members? Because I think if you look at our own board policy, you look at our board policy, which is policy BBA, and if you look at Code of Virginia section 22.1-79, talks about the responsibilities of the school board and why people have elected school board. So it's not a joint responsibility. It's not a joint board. You know, so I just think that the school board has some responsibilities, the board of supervisors has some responsibilities, and certainly we can have some open dialogue between the two. But I don't think that the board of supervisors should help us identify and address key issues any more than any other member of the community or any other board or any other group of citizens in the community. So for me, I don't think we should spell out that this is the board that's gonna help us identify and address the issues. That's our job. And we should reach out not only to the board of supervisors to help us do that, but we should reach out to the entire community. So I strongly disagree with number 2. I strongly disagree with number 4. And I strongly disagree with number 3, because education outcomes and opportunities in terms of programs and what the responsibility of the school board is, that's certainly one of the responsibilities of the school board to talk about education opportunities and outcomes. That's the express responsibility of the school board as presented both in the Code of Virginia and our school board policy.
I concur with that. I think that when you talk about identifying, developing, ensuring, you are stepping over into the gray area. I think that board supervisors have their charge, and we have our charge based on the Constitution of the state of Virginia. And we develop our initiatives based on data and other things that we look at. A liaison committee would not be that in-depth in terms of having the kind of background and data that they need to make the best decisions in those areas.
I as well understand where you're coming from, and I guess I read it differently, and maybe it just needs to be reworded. Because my understanding and the way I read it was that these would be topics that could be discussed, but not that we were asking the Board of Supervisors to come to us with the solutions that we're charged to. So, like Mr. Rogers said, for the 4th one about strategic planning and capital improvement and that kind of stuff, that's where we've gotten stuck before. We just had this issue in April, where we were voting on how to use money, but we needed the approval of the Board of Supervisors. If that was something that this liaison committee had been discussing, again, not that we're asking them to come up with a solution for us or to create something for us, just that this would be the areas that could be discussed during these meetings. I know that one of the things that Ms. London brought up about a concern for this was getting off topic, and that we needed to make sure that we had a very set guidelines for what could be discussed. And I think that all of these are appropriate as far as discussions, and maybe that's the way it needs to be worded instead.
And I would agree with that as well, in that, some of the things that are listed in here certainly are things that we could have conversation about. And I guess I was picturing the committee would be more of a breaking bread together, communicating back and forth, sharing of information, but not a formalized, committee that's going to be put in place. And I guess I have concerns with the section that's the decision making, and when it talks about that the committee shall strive to make decisions by consensus. And of course, this shouldn't be a committee that should be empowered with decision making anyway, because of course that rests with the individual boards. And I do know the next bullet point comes in and says that decisions and recommendations by the committee should be non-binding, but I don't know that it's a place that we should be making decisions. It should be more about just collaboration and again, this building relationship and trust.
Yeah, I did play around with the words there. I had the same concerns that you did, because I don't think that the role of this committee is actually to make decisions for either board. But when you have a committee, the committee's got to be able to make a decision on something like an agenda or things like that. So there's some better words to play with. I'd be open to definitely figuring out how we do that, because I don't think it's a decision that would bind either board to any particular project or outcome or anything like that. But a group has to have a process by which at least they conduct some business. And so I think that's a place we could definitely spend some time with.
Could we go going back to calling it the liaison committee, which is an ad hoc committee that already existed. So we call it the liaison committee, which is, you know, I think more in line with what I see this committee as doing, as having a dialogue between the two boards, but certainly, you know, but certainly in terms of, you know, the other things, as I said before, I disagree. Unless we, you know, if we're gonna spell this out, then we need to spell out that we're going to develop joint strategies and initiatives to enhance broadband access, revenue streams for the county. You know, so I think when we talk about, we're not, if we're gonna develop joint strategies, we also need to be talking about some of those responsibilities that right now are within the sole purview of the Board of Supervisors. So if we're going to develop joint strategies and initiatives, then we need to include in that list of things stuff like revenue streams and broadband access and recreational funding of recreational opportunities. So I think we're going to have that list. And number 3, we have to spell out and include the things that the Board of Supervisors would share with us, and not just what we would share with them.
So do you think we could reword number 3 instead of saying developing, you know, maybe make it something more along the lines of brainstorming, so we're not actually developing, that committee isn't developing those strategies, but is having that conversation about those strategies. And then instead of listing like particular things, and the only reason I say that is because, you know, that something will come up that we didn't have listed, and, you know, that we could word it in a way.
Something like developing joint strategies that affects the life, you know, the way of life of citizens in the community.
Right, that's what I'm saying, like where there's overlap, you know, like Mr. Rogers said, we're talking about broadband, and they want to know how that's going to affect students and the families. That would be an area where there's some overlap in maybe strategizing together. And then likewise, you know, with budgets and that kind of thing, if we're saying.
So maybe discuss joint strategies and initiatives to enhance the.
Maybe we just say to enhance the mutual interests of both boards.
Okay.
Because then, then that way, I mean, what we're doing is we're saying we've got some mutual shared interests. So, and the other thing is, you know, I'm not so sure that we need to drill down so much with all these things. So if we left number 1, the whole purpose of the committee is to facilitate open dialogue. So if we leave number 1, put in number 3, which is the developing the joint strategies for, you know, mutual shared interests, you know, something, wording it, something like that. And then leave number 6, which is the, and I would just put it as reporting updates to both governing bodies. So instead of boxing ourselves in, we're just creating a committee that's dialoguing back and forth, but not getting too specific or deep in the weeds. And then, of course, my recommendation would be on the decision making, to adjust that and limit to, if we're talking about it, really it should just be the setting of the agenda. So instead of decision making, we can just call that, you know, agenda, and we can word something there that the agenda will be mutually agreed upon or something.
So you're suggesting leaving in 1 and 3 as revised?
And 6.
Yes, 6.
What about 5?
Well, I think if we're facilitating open dialogue, that's kind of a given. That's what I'm saying. Instead of trying to get too in-depth, if we leave it broad and what we're really, it just then talks to the goals of what we're trying to accomplish.
Or what you're thinking about, 1, the purpose, you know, the Southampton County School Board and the Southampton County Board of Supervisors recognize the critical importance of effective communication and collaboration to enhance, you know, the lives of citizens in the community. It's not just to enhance education outcomes, community engagement, but it's to enhance the lives of citizens in the community or something. So the purpose of this committee is to establish a structured framework for fostering regular communication, mutual understanding, and cooperation between the school board and the board of supervisors. The committee is tasked with facilitating open dialogue between the Southampton County Board of Supervisors and the Southampton County School Board, developing joint strategies and initiatives to advance the mutual interest of both boards, and reporting recommendations and progress updates to both governing boards.
I got a question for the superintendent. Have you ever been asked to serve on any kind of courting committee that's trying to draft in industry into the county?
So the economic, office or council downtown, when they were working on their strategic plan, the gentleman did send an email and ask for our input. And so we have two members of our team that are on that committee, and it's Dr. Blunt and Mr. Will. And they're working with the economic development committee downtown. I can't remember his name right off the head.
Thank you.
So what you're thinking about the committee meeting quarterly? I think that's enough, too much?
I think it's probably the best way to put it for there, you know, I don't think any less than that would be a good idea. I could see how, maybe during certain times, you know, there might be an additional meeting held, but I mean, I think that quarterly would cover what we're trying to do.
Okay. So then, so what you're thinking then about establishing this committee with the scope that we just pointed out?
Yeah, I think we need some wordsmanship.
Okay. So then, we're all in favor of accepting or advancing this idea of this way of improving communication between the two boards. If you're in favor of doing that, would you please raise your hands? Okay, so this is the revised version that we're talking about. If you're in favor of advancing the revised version of what we talked about, would you please raise your hands? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
I would like to see the revised version.
And that's what I was getting ready to say, is maybe,
Larry was saying, yes, I agree, I can do it, I believe that we discussed it, but.
yeah, so should we make the adjustments and the changes and then review it again? And that would kind of be my thought.
Yeah, I don't see it's too much urgency here.
Okay, so you prefer to have a clean copy come back to us in our next meeting? Okay, that's what we'll do then. Then we'll have a clean copy come back to us at our next meeting. Because the next step after we have our clean copy, the next step would be to share this thinking with the board of supervisors and see if they want to do it. So if you come back to us with a clean copy, we can revisit it next month with the revisions that we talked about, and then if we can agree on that, then we will advance it to the board of supervisors for their consideration. Okay, thank you.
Just want to make sure I'm unclear. You want me to make the changes that we discussed here today and circulate it back to the board?
No, I'm good. Because I think it's just 3 lines.
Yeah.
I'll make the change.
Also got the decision making to change that to like agenda adoption or something of that nature. There's a section further down that says decision making, and that's where it talks about.
Okay, so we're gonna call it agenda adoption.
Yeah, or something of that nature, because I think that was the goal behind that section. Was to
It might fit in the meeting frequency and procedures. There might be a way to include it in that section, if you want. You know, instead of having a full decision-making section, it might just be able to be added into the meeting frequency and procedures section above.
And my other question with it, while we're revising, is, you know, do we want this to be a formal, very formal committee in the beginning with, I mean, this talks about having minutes, who's gonna keep the minutes, who the minutes gonna be reported to, or do we want to start it as the informal liaison, meeting quarterly, following this scope, and then reporting back to our individual boards?
No, I think we need minutes so that we'll have some record of things, you know, items discussed and a general idea of where people stood on those items. I like the idea of having minutes. So, Mr. Rogers, you think you can condense meeting frequency and agenda adoption, and put that all together? Okay, so then would you make can I bounce that back to you then to do the revisions?
Yep.
I thought it was just gonna be changing 5 words. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll revisit it at our September meeting. So we are down to the financial report and payment of bills.
Yes, Ms. Carr, our Director of Finance, is on her way to the podium to make the presentation.
Good evening, all present tonight. If I can bring your attention to the preliminary expenditure report for the month of July. If you'll note that our local operating budget for the new fiscal 24-25 school year is $36,970,753. We have expenditures through July 31st that total $1,391,3950, which leaves us a balance of $35,579,713.50. Please note that as of the date of this report, 3.76% has been expended from the operating budget. The July bill list has been attached to the agenda for the board's approval tonight. Are there any questions?
Any questions, Ms. Carr?
I make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
I have a motion by Ms. Bond. Second. A second by Ms. Lane to pay the bills as presented. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are now down to item B, which is the Camp Community College dual enrollment contract. Action.
Yes, a representative from Camp Community College provided us with a copy of the dual enrollment, dual credit contract. And this is a standard contract that we sign every year in order for our students to participate in the dual enrollment, dual credit program. And the contract outlines, you know, who makes payments and when payments will be made, as well as the classes that will be taught and who will teach those classes. In this particular contract, they are, they have not requested, but they increased the tuition. So the tuition was originally $158.61 per credit hour, and it has been increased to $163.40 per credit hour. And then our students also pay $20 per hour if the class is taught by our teacher. So if the class is taught by a Camp Community College instructor, they'll pay $163.40 per credit hour. If the class is taught on campus here by one of our instructors, who is, dual enrollment certified, then our students will only pay $20, per credit hour. Also on page 9, the name needs to be changed, and, I would like to change that name to Ms. Kelly Gillette, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
That's the contact person for the school system, is that the name you're changing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And, if you look at this agreement, you know, people often ask if we still teach welding or, practical electricity. And those classes are being taught, just not on site, they're being taught at Camp Community College. And so our students partner with Camp to take those classes, as well as all the others that are listed.
And we're still paying the school district pays.
Yes, ma'am, we still pay, right now, we're still paying 50%, and then the families are paying 50%.
Now, is that with the, CTE class, like welding?
We pay 50% regardless of the classes. Yep. Now, sometimes, it depends on whether or not we have grant funding. In the past, we have had some grant funding where 100% of either welding or the electricity classes were paid for. But I'm not sure we still have that, grant funding. It's been probably 5 years since we were given those funds. And those funds were actually from a local, businessman for our children.
This is an action item. Do you have any questions before we take action on this agreement? So we do need a motion to approve. That's your pleasure.
Dr. Goodwin, I move that we approve the dual enrollment agreement with the amendment added by Dr. Shannon and the change of contact for Southampton.
Have a motion by Mr. Rogers,
Second.
a second by Mr. Scott. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next action item is the VSBA Policy Services Agreement. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, we are members of the Virginia School Board Association, and as such, we are privy to contract, services and policy services with VSBA. So in order for us to continue with those services, the amount of the invoice is $2,500, and if the board agrees that it's in our best interest to continue with those services, then we will pay that amount. And VSBA, they actually draft model policies, and we utilize their model policies to create our district policies.
And in the past, this has been valuable because we know that they cite the legal references. And if you look at policies from one school district to another, you can see that we all primarily, use the VSBA. The majority of us have used the VSBA model policies to draft our own. So it is a valuable service, or has been in the past.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the policy services agreement.
Have a motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
a second by Ms. Bond. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have coming back to us for action, the student absences, excuses, releases, regulation policy. We'll call it attendance and makeup work policy. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, so this particular policy, as Dr. Gould stated, is coming back before the board, and I'm just going to summarize some of the sections, if that's okay, because we've seen it before. The policy does align with the Code of Virginia requiring all students aged 5 to 8 to attend school regularly. The absences are categorized in this policy as excused or unexcused. Excused absences being reasons such as illness, religious holidays, and school-related activities. Unexcused absences include vacations, missing the bus, and truancy. Parents and guardians must provide written documentation for excused absences up to 10 absences can be excused per year by a parent note. And then additional absences may require medical or external documentation. Looking at parent notification procedures, the school will notify parents of absences daily through phone calls. Specific actions are triggered after a certain number of unexcused absences. A letter is sent after the third unexcused absence. A meeting is scheduled after the fifth unexcused absence. A follow-up conference occurs after the seventh unexcused absence. And legal action may be initiated after the 10th unexcused absence. A student is considered chronically absent if they miss more than 10% of the days they are enrolled, whether excused or unexcused. And I think that needs to be emphasized. Even if it's excused, if they miss 10%, then it counts against them and us. Students at risk of chronic absenteeism will receive a letter, and an attendance improvement plan will be developed in collaboration with the parents, guardians, to address attendance issues. Students with 15 consecutive absences will be unenrolled from school, and parents will be notified. Chronic absenteeism can lead to grade reduction or retention. Now, this is something new. So for elementary and middle school students, this may involve participation in a student assistance plan. And for high school students, excessive absences in any course may result in a failing grade unless a waiver is obtained or attendance recovery is completed. Students are provided with opportunities to make up work missed due to absences. Elementary teachers will provide the makeup work directly to the students. And what I mean by this is elementary teachers will go to the students and ensure that they get the makeup work. But once they get in middle and high school, it's the student's responsibility to go to the teachers to request the missing assignments. All makeup work should be submitted within 5 days of returning to school.
Questions for Dr. Shannon?
How do we do that? Is it automated?
Normally it's a person, and we usually call the second day. You know, the first day someone's absent, you know, something might, but that second day we're trying to see if they're sick or if something's going on, if there's anything that we can do to help from the school. So we usually have a secretary or counselor, someone call the second day. Yep, and I will say though, that does not mean that they will not receive an automated call, because I think the system will generate an automated call as well.
Yeah, I just wondered, and you know, I hate that we have to worry about something like this, but, you know, a parent thinks my child got on the bus this morning and went to school, and then they're not at school.
That's exactly why we call.
Right, yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
This is maybe just for my information. The withdrawal from school at 15 consecutive unexcused or excused absences, if there's like a catastrophic illness, does that qualify then for like an accommodation where if a child had to be out of school because they were in the hospital for 15 consecutive days, that falls under like an accommodation of some kind, or we would work with that family?
Now, I'm gonna say those 15 days and them being withdrawn, that's something that's written in the code.
Okay.
But I'm sure that if a child was in the hospital, we would probably do like homeschool or home-based learning. We would do something else for that
They
particular
would give
child.
credit for attendance.
That's
if
right,
they couldn't
because
be-
the child's in the hospital. And contingent upon the child's classification, we may even provide services to that child.
Any other questions? This is an action item, so. We need a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Scott,
I second it.
a second by Ms. Lane to approve the attendance and makeup work policy. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next action item is policy IKGA, the Virginia Standards of Learning Promotion and Retention Policy. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, so, this particular policy, it's centered around standardized test scores, benchmark tests, attendance, report card performance, remediation participation, and mastery of SOL standards. Those are some of the items that will be utilized to determine promotion and retention. Promotion decisions involve consultation among teachers, principals, and other staff members with ongoing communication with parents. So for elementary students, the student must pass reading, math, and either science or social studies to be promoted. If a student is at risk of being retained, parents are notified by the end of, it says second quarter here, but that needs to say second 9 weeks, and a written academic success plan is developed. So if we think the child will be retained, we need to make sure that we start notifying parents early, which is by that second 9 weeks, and developing a written academic success plan. It also states, number 3, if it's deemed the best benefit to the child after final review of the results of the child's academic success plan, they shall be retained. The decision will be communicated to the family in a timely fashion after the decision is reached. The middle school reads essentially the same way. And it states that students must pass English, math, and other science and social studies, plus health, physical education, or one elective course to be promoted. Similar to elementary, if retention is likely, parents are notified and an academic success plan is developed. Now when they get to high school, you see that in order for them to be promoted, they have to complete all required courses for their current grade level, accumulate the necessary credits for promotion, meet attendance requirements, successfully pass required Virginia SOL assessments and district assessments, participate in any meetings or conferences with teachers, counselors, or administrators to discuss academic progress and promotion criteria, attend summer school, Saturday school, and remediation if needed, and then receive official notification after all requirements have been met. Should it be deemed, in the best interest for the child to be retained, the following will occur. Parents will be notified at the end of, and here we have first 9 weeks, if a child is in danger of being retained. And we have that because we're on the 4x4 block schedule at the high school. And then if a child is in danger of being retained, the school must establish a written academic success plan in concert with the family to demonstrate what process shall take place in order to make an appropriate classification. And if it's deemed in the best benefit of the child after review of all the results, then that child will be retained. And then we also have promotion requirements listed, and these promotion requirements are that in order for a student to be promoted to the 10th grade, the student would have earned 6 or more credits and would have earned at least 1 or more verified credits if working on a standard diploma or an advanced diploma. In order for the student to be promoted to the 11th grade, the student would have been in high school for 2 years. The student would have earned 12 or more credits and would have 2 or more verified credits. And in order for a student to be promoted to the 12th grade, a student would have been in high school 3 years, have earned 18 or more credits, and have earned 4 or more verified credits. And when I go back, I want to go back and say, in order for them to be promoted to the 10th grade, they have to have been in high school at least 1 year.
Questions, comments?
Dr. Shannon, what does the plan consist of? Is there paperwork involved?
Yes, there is. It's actually a whole packet that's already been developed.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, under the high school advancement to the next level, so there's 7 different items there, and they're all, it looks like they're all weighted equally, except for the attend summer school, Saturday academy remediation if needed. where it says in number 4, successfully pass the required Virginia SOL and district assessments. I just want to make sure I understand. Does that mean that if they pass the class and they pass the SOLs that was attached to it, with the district assessments, if they didn't pass that test, could that hold the student back? Is that the intent of the way that's worded, or did we mean?
So a little bit more about that is in the very next policy, in policy IKG.
Okay.
All right, so if it's okay with you all, you can go to IKG and then we'll circle back to this. It may answer your question in IKG. Okay.
So we won't take action on this policy this time. So we'll go on to policy, IKG, remediation program.
Yes, so, last month, I think, Dr. Harris made this presentation, but in alignment with the, SOL standards, the school division will ensure that its curriculum does align with the Virginia SOLs and provide a remediation program that includes coaching and tutorial support for students with achievement gaps in core content areas, such as reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. Eligibility for retaking the SOL students must participate in remediation, which could include after-school programs, during-school programs, or Saturday academy to be eligible to retake the SOL. Schools must maintain records of student participation in remediation programs and track their progress using tools like data notebooks, data walls, and individualized plans. Mandatory remediation for failed assessments. Students who fail division-wide benchmark assessments or SOL tests in grades 3 is what we have, there really should be all grades, are required to attend remediation through summer school, Saturday academy, or other approved programs. Students may also fulfill remediation requirements through certified private programs at the parent's expense, provided these programs are approved by the superintendent. And then the program does align with specific Virginia codes. And then looking at the bottom, where we talk about students who pass the SOLs but fail the academic course. Students who pass the SOL exam but fail to make sufficient academic progress shall be required to participate in a range of supports and services. Such supports will be determined by the curriculum instruction and assessment team, the building leadership team, the classroom teacher, school counselor, IEP team if applicable, and the student and their family. And if students who pass the academic course but fail the SOL, students who pass academic course but fail the associated SOL with the academic course shall be required to participate in a range of supports and services. Such supports will be determined again by curriculum and instruction, building level leadership team, classroom teachers, school counselor, IEP team, and students and their families. So I guess to answer your question, we are not trying to retain a student based on them not passing the benchmark assessment. But we do want them to participate in remediation and to take advantage of all supports that we have available.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, I think we might need to play around with the wording then, just to make sure that that intent is carried out in the policy. It might look like something like a reference to the other policy and say if one or both of those assessments are failed, then that's when the remediation efforts might need to take place. It just might be playing with the way the words are ordered, I think, to get to the intent of what you just described.
Okay, perfect.
Are you saying maybe, or they have to be?
For remediation, the remediation is shall. They shall participate in remediation if they fail the benchmark assessment or if they fail the SOL
So
assessment.
is there a consequence for not doing it?
Ma'am?
Is there a consequence for not doing it? Participating in all the things that you are offering?
Oh, is there a consequence if they don't participate? I guess the consequence may be retention, if they don't participate. But I don't see them not participating because we offer remediation before school, after school, during school, on Saturdays, and in the summer. So there are so many opportunities for our children to participate in remediation. And if a family decides that they don't want to participate in any of that, the family can go out and seek private remediation. They just need to communicate with us to let us know, who's doing the private remediation for them.
For the policy IKG, I think it's page 2 for the high school. In order, where it says in order for Southampton County High School students to be promoted to the next grade level, a student must, and then it has that list. To me, the way I read it is that you have to do all of those things in order to be promoted. But number 4, successfully passing the SOL, we can't hold a student back just for failing the SOL. So could we change, instead of changing the list, can we just change the way it's written at the top so that it's something like the decision to retain a student based on these factors or something like that?
Yeah.
But we see on the next page, though, and I guess what Ford is getting at, although it's unclear, is that in order to be promoted to the 10th grade, you have to have passed at least one SOL. So I guess.
No, I'm talking about the part that just says high school. It's the second page of policy IKGA, the one that we.
Right, and
Yeah.
talk about item 4, right? Under that list, in order for a Southampton County high school student to be promoted to the next grade level, a student must.
Right.
Where you are, complete all required courses for the current grade level, accumulate the necessary credits for promotion, meet attendance requirements, and then successfully pass the Virginia SOL assessment. That's what you're saying.
Right, that we can't require that they pass the SOL in order to be promoted.
But we say, and I guess the context, we say that on the next page.
So I think what she's asking about is just the wording of it, so maybe we say the decision to, for advancement or retainment for Southampton County High School students to be promoted to the next grade level will be based on these
And then do
factors.
that, yes.
I think she's saying, she just wants to take out the word must.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is on the next page, it says promotion to 10th grade. A student has been in high school 1 year, has earned 6 or more credits, has earned 1 or more verified credits. So we say on the next page that in order to be promoted to 10th grade, you gotta have 1 verified credit. So is that in conflict with number 4, I guess is my question.
I don't know, I just know that the way we word it, we need to be careful because you cannot hold a child back simply for failing an SOL.
Right, but the child cannot graduate from high school unless they have passed 5 SOLs, right? So you might can't hold them back, but they can't graduate either. Unless they pass the required number of SOLs or district assessments, so. Yeah.
Right, but like the way it has, like to be promoted to the next grade level. So if you're a 10th grader and you took 3 SOL classes, the way I read that page 2 is that I have to have passed all those SOLs in order to be promoted.
Oh,
which is
okay,
true.
and we just say you gotta pass 1.
Right, so that's why I think if we just change it to, this is what we are considering.
So yeah, she's just gonna have to reword that first sentence, saying, the determination for advancement or retention will be based on, and the 7 item list instead of having must.
I have one more question while we're still on those 7 things. We referenced Saturday Academy. Is our funding that's supporting Saturday Academy run forever?
No, it doesn't run forever, but it does run through this year. So, yeah.
So I guess my follow-up to that is, should we name the specific supports? Or should we reference a set of specific supports that's maybe published on the website or published in the student handbook for remediation opportunities, but not actually make it a part of the formal policy so that we don't have to go back and revise it if we don't have Saturday Academy in the future, or summer school for a given year or something like that? And just trying to keep us from having ourselves in to revise the policy every year if something changes.
I think we could just put it provided, you know, and then, and go on.
Any other questions, comments? So then we do need a motion to approve policy IKGA with the suggested revisions.
Dr. I move that we adopt policy IKGA with the amendment of that section under high school to be reworded as a list instead of a set of requirements.
I have a motion by Dr. Kendall.
Second.
Got a second, Ms. Lane? Second by Ms. Lane. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Then we need a motion to approve policy IKGB.
Dr. I move that we adopt policy IKGA as written.
I have a motion by Dr. Kendall. A second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next item is the list of persons who will serve on the Special Education Advisory Committee. And we see that Ms. Lane is the person who is going to represent the board. Dr. Sharon, why don't you elaborate on that list?
Yes, so the Special Education Advisory Committee, they actually provide support for the education of children with disabilities. And the committee is tasked with advising the school division on specific needs of students, ensuring that, you know, all of the educational requirements are met. And then attached is a list. We have parents, we have community members, community leaders, CSEP representatives, the school board representative, as you mentioned, our director of special education, and an educational specialist.
And responsibilities are listed and the meeting dates.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
A motion by Ms. Lane,
Second.
a second by Mr. Rogers. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is, we do need to have a second meeting this month, before the start of school. The purpose of our special meeting will be to discuss the organizational structure for the 24-25 school year, to talk about position vacancies, teacher reassignments, projected class size by grade and or subject, the SOL scores and school accreditation, plans for addressing areas of concern based on SOL assessments. So we do need to meet. So is there a day, perhaps next week, look at your calendars, is there a day next week that we could have a special meeting? Monday is the 19th, Tuesday is the 20th, Wednesday is the 21st.
Would we meet at 6 like we usually do for special meetings?
Say again?
Would we meet at 6 o'clock?
Yes, at 6.
Alright, do anything?
What time is football practice?
We're done at 6, I do the work.
What day works best for board members?
I can only do Wednesday.
Wednesday? Okay, so we're leaving out Monday and Tuesday, so look at your calendars. Will Wednesday, the 21st, work for everybody else? Everybody's free Wednesday, 21st, 6 p.m. August 21st at 6 p.m. And the clerk will do the necessary announcements that we will have that meeting. Part of it will be a closed session, since we will be talking about individual reassignments and assignments. So part of it will be open, but we'll go into closed session also. So we're down to item 7, informational items of Dr. Shannon, and instructional report.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gillette, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, is on her way to the podium, and she's going to talk about professional development and some of the great things that we have coming up this week.
Good evening. This is my favorite time of year. This is the time of year when, in June, when everybody was ready to get out, but now they're looking at boards to see what they can do, how they're going to organize their classrooms. And we're ready for the teachers to come back. So we're going to talk about our new teacher orientation and professional development we have coming up. Also, Virginia Literacy Act updates and dates to remember. At our new teacher orientation, it will be August 19th and 20th, which is coming up Monday and Tuesday, can you believe it? It'll happen here in the Commons from 8 to 3:30. And some of the topics we'll be discussing will be their standards of learning, the curriculum framework, differentiated instruction, lesson design, ethics and etiquette, special education, technology, classroom management, and of course our Navigate system. One thing we're doing a little bit different this year, on the second day in the morning, we're going to divide up elementary and secondary to do specific classroom management for elementary, specific for secondary, as well as looking at differentiated instruction and what your lesson design looks like. Our professional development will be right after that, on the 21st and 22nd. We'll have all teachers back. On the 26th, we're going to have convocation, high school. And then on the 27th through 29th, teachers will work in their classrooms. These are some of the topics that we have for professional development. We looked at the Virginia Literacy Act, we looked at the requirements for that. We also looked at the online platforms we have, and made sure we have companies coming in from those specific places to give us the professional development. On August 25th, that Friday, we'll have grade level and content meetings, and in those meetings we'll discuss curriculum, they'll do their pacing, we'll have our assessments and our balanced assessment plans. We'll have professional development for special education teachers, our counselors, reading specialists, principals, and of course our virtual coaches. I want to share with you some Virginia literacy updates. The division literacy plan has been approved by the BDOE and is posted on our division website. The recommendations have been made for the BDOE revisions. We're going to have those ready. It is a working document, and those changes will be made with assistance by December 6th of this year. All materials for new supplemental and intervention programs have been received, and they're delivered already to the elementary schools, ready to go. We teachers have been signed up. This bullet right here was as of last Friday. Teachers have already received emails that completed a survey to determine the course appropriate for that particular teacher. So we're excited about that, for the Canvas classes. So any new teachers we have after this professional development starts for teachers with the modules, we can add those teachers the 1st and the 7th of each month, so they won't miss out. The professional development, as I discussed, is lined up with the Virginia Literacy Act to make sure we're using each program. De-implementation, which means we're taking out everything that is not aligned to the Virginia Literacy Act. We've already done paper and all those things are out. We're giving to each school. The student reading plans will be created using the public counseling groups, Virginia IEP Online, which is free to us, and those will be individual plans for each student, specified to their specific needs. Excited to talk about next, the 26th. We'll have convocation that morning, but then we'll have a big celebration for students and parents that evening here at the high school from 5 to 7. It's August 26th. And of course, it's free. It's for all of our elementary, we'll be going tonight, middle or high school student coming in as well. The dinner will be served by us. The leadership team for the Virginia Literacy Act throughout the division will be there to answer any questions. We'll have program information to hand out to parents, which will be flyers. We're going to have decodable text for students in the books, alphabet cards, and also we'll have bounce houses, snow cones, popcorn, and also security will be provided by us. So all are welcome, and we're excited about this kickoff. Dates to remember. As I said, new teacher orientation on the 19th and 20th, followed by professional development with teachers on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, convocation on the 26th. Elementary open house will be from 2 to 6 on August the 29th. Middle school open house will be August 28th. Freshman open house 5 to 6 on August 27th. And then this high school open house will also be on August 28th. And the times are staggered a little bit, just in case you had a student at the middle school and high school, so you have time to go to both.
And what times did you say for the high school?
Let's see, it was 2 to 6 for the elementary. Middle school, I believe, was 5 to 7, and then 6 to 8 for the high school.
What is the time for the convocation?
Usually we start that at like 9. This year we'll start a little bit earlier, get more bang for our buck. So we'll start that at 8:30. So from 8 to 8:30, we'll have water and juice for staff and little breakfast items. And they'll be able to talk to each other and welcome each other back for about 30 minutes before we go to our convocation.
That's here, correct?
This year. So most of what you see, the new teachers and the freshman development convocation, that all happens here. The kickoff as well. So we look forward to seeing you at the new teacher orientation on that Monday and also at convocation on the next Monday.
Ms. Arch will send us reminders, right? Ms. Arch will send us reminders about the time and place. Get that. Any questions, Mr. Leff? Or Dr. Shannon?
Thank you.
The next item is the maintenance operations and student transportation. Dr. Shannon?
Ma'am, Mr. Melvin is on his way to the podium, and he will talk a little bit about some of the improvements that we made in the school system this summer.
Good evening, Dr. Goodwin Board. I kind of left this kind of bare bones because we have things that are even today that we had going on. So first off on the list are flooring replacements. Every building in the division got some new floors. It's been a focus really to get rid of the carpeting in a lot of our areas. Easier to clean, easier to keep a instructional space. Much healthier with the laminate floors. So we took out tons of carpeting this summer and put down LVT utilizing ESSER funds. All the elementary schools are getting a painting refresh. The high school, middle school was painted last year. So all the elementary schools are getting their color blocks. Have all been done at Nottoway, Heron, and Riverdale. Capron, they were there today. But the color blocks and the bathrooms at all the elementary schools are being painted this summer. With the HVAC grant, we have fully obligated that grant, working with Chesapeake Controls and to move the train. And yes, I understand, and I got HVAC tech was here tonight. I think we heard them running across the roof at one point to get our unit back up. It is running now. On the safety and security side of things, we have 2 different grant pots that we're working with right now. The fiscal year 23, we were able to add some fencing, security fencing in at Capron and Riverdale. We added some lighting at Capron. We had additional cameras installed throughout the division, and we were also able to implement a visitor ID system with our Navigate suite of items where when a visitor comes on campus, they're able to scan their ID, they print off an ID badge, and that also is tied into different databases so we get alerted that person should not be. With our fiscal year 24 school security funds, which we just got here in June. One of the programs we're doing is the student ID cards, and these ID cards are going to have a free fold use to them. They'll be their ID, they'll be their lunch card, library card, and then also they will have the ability when that student gets on the bus, they tap the card on the reader, parent knows its child's on the bus. They tap the card when they get off the bus, parent gets a notification the kid's off the bus. So they'll know where the kid is, when they got on, and when they got off the bus. It's not a hard and fast rule that if a kid forgets their ID badge that they get on the bus, but it is a nice tool for the parents to be able to see where their child is, and also help us out knowing where every kid is on the bus. At each of the schools, we will be going around and putting on security film at all the entrances. This is a protective film that slows down someone if they're trying to bust through the glass windows. It's not completely impenetrable, but it gives us the number one thing that we need to save the situation, which is time. The film itself will also be reflective, so people on the outside will not be able to see in, but will be able to see out. We did put the security film into the upcoming school year's security grant so that we can continue to wrap the rest of the building. All exterior windows will have a reflective coating on it as an added security measure. At Capron, window repairs are underway. Waterproofing Technologies, they are a subsidiary of Tremco. They will be addressing every window that they've had issues with, leaking or closing issues, to take out the old part and adjust the window, get it back closed, sealed, and watertight. Vehicle inspections, all of the vehicles in our fleet, all buses and all cars have been inspected throughout the summer. They are ready to roll for the new school year, and the ones that were used in summer school, they are going to get another once over before school starts as well. At each school, the staffs have been working to strip and prep the floors and get the building straight. Here at the high school, middle school, and Riverdale, they're a little bit behind because of summer school, but they will be ready for the beginning of the school year. Transportation department is getting ready as we've added new drivers. We've lost some drivers, so we've adjusted the routes we talked about in the spring to make us more efficient and to get our kids to and from school safely. And we'll have those routes ready to go out, and they'll be sent out through social media, through our Remind, Facebook, and on our website as well. So all of that will be ready to roll for the beginning of the school year. Any questions?
Questions, Mr. Melvin? Or Dr. Shannon? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have already talked about the facilities committee, and you remember Mr. Rogers and Ms. Bunn agreed to work on that committee, and Ms. Bunn is going to chair that committee. So pursuant to section 2.2-37, 1181 and 2 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, order upon a motion and a second will convene in a closed session to discuss personnel appointments, resignations, and compensation, intra-district student transfers, out-of-district student admissions, student discipline matters, the superintendent contract, and a personnel matter concerning Capron School Council. Yeah, this is student discipline matters. Okay. Yeah. So do we have, so after at the conclusion of the closed session, the board will return to this area, take any new action on matters discussed during the closed session. So do we have a motion to go into closed session? We have a motion by Mr. Scott, there's a second by Ms. Lane. All in favor, please say aye.